So Rob, here we are at the end of March. It's the end of Q1, so let's go through your editor's picks for the month, so your top stories. You've chosen the Amur fire and the tight helium supplies as one of your picks. Why this?
I have indeed, Tom. This was a story from early January, I believe, and
Yep.
I think we saw the incident at the Amur plant on the 5th of January, so very early on in the quarter, admittedly, but this was a story that immediately created uncertainty in the helium market, and obviously it would go on to become helium shortage 4.0, as we now know. Really interesting in terms of, we thought this was going to be a very different year for helium for various reasons. We thought we were moving from shortage to ample supply. And the Amur plant in Russia was a huge part of that. It really was. And it was producing helium for, I think, several weeks towards the end of 2021. Went down for planned maintenance. And then we've heard about these incidents which have taken it offline, we think, for the large part of this year.
Perfect. And your second pick is another story from January. It's Linde starting up the world's first plant for extracting hydrogen from natural gas pipelines. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, I chose this one, Tom. I think this is a completely other end of the spectrum, and this taps into that clean energies vibe, which we're seeing all the time. It's really important. Crucially, I think this is an important story because it's a new means of taking that hydrogen from natural gas, and we're being told it's a means of using existing infrastructure. So the idea here is we can skip having to build whole new infrastructure and we can get that extra product from what we already have in place. So I think that's a very interesting angle on that story. It won't appeal to everyone, clearly. There's a lot of people out there that say we shouldn't be doing these projects straight to green hydrogen, but I think we also have to be fairly pragmatic in our approach. So I think that's really interesting, really important story. And I would just add, we're going to get into more of that with our webinar sponsored by Evonik in the coming weeks, and we'll have Evonik and Linde talking about that exact project.
Absolutely, and you say it won't appeal to everyone. Why did it appeal to you?
For the exact reasons I said, in terms of the pragmatism, the practicality. I think we all want to completely overhaul our energy system, and recent events in Europe have also accelerated that ambition, I would say. But there's still an element that, when you've got an economic tree so rooted in fossil fuels, you just can't overhaul it overnight. It isn't practical, and think of the cost escalations for everybody involved, all of us, right down to the consumer. So I think a project like this that can add product from existing infrastructure can only be a good thing in the short term.
Excellent. Your third pick is surrounding Mesa, and it's the fact that they want to construct solar-powered ASUs in Texas. Tell us about this one.
Absolutely. I love this story. As you know, Tom, you've talked to me before about green air gases. I've got a real passion for this subject. I think it's really important that we talk a lot about how the gases industry is helping to decarbonise other sectors, but it's got to look at itself as well. It's got to find a way of decarbonising its own operations. ASUs, as we know, are extremely energy intensive. It's a lot of power they require to do the great things they do. And if we can start deriving more of that power from renewable sources like offshore wind farms or from solar power, then that's got to be a good thing. We're seeing more and more of this. We saw various projects announced by Air Liquide and Linde last year in particular. Now we've seen this one from Mesa in the US, and I think that's a really great step forward.
A big decarbonisation theme in this first quarter for sure. And the final one is a story from you in February, and it's that there are fresh chip concerns due to Ukraine-based neon supplies.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't really do the editor's picks this quarter without reflecting the situation going on in Europe. And obviously our thoughts are with everyone that's affected by that situation in Ukraine. I chose this story because it is important. We do need to reflect that situation. There could have been so many other stories that we've covered just in the last month at Gasworld. We've covered the position of the majors in Russia. We've covered helium and how that's going to be impacted on some level. We've covered so many different strands of this story, and this is one that perhaps doesn't always get picked up. Rare gases and neon, it is a big deal. Projections vary, but a significant quantity of neon was coming out of Russia, Ukraine and it's being affected. We're hearing stories on the ground of how it's been affected, and we've also got the data to back some of that up. So yeah, we have to put that in the editor's picks, and it's the knock-on effects. You know, it's the knock-on effects on the chip, the semiconductor market. That's why it's also important.
And where do you think that sort of situation around the neon supply goes from here?
I don't want to say anyone's guess, but it would be very much crystal ball gazing if we tried to really give an answer on that. We're currently producing a rare gases report at the moment, which we hope to publish soon, perhaps by the time this goes out. We'll have a clearer picture then, but I think with this whole situation, it's very fluid. No one knows what's going to happen. What we do know is the semiconductor sector has had a very challenging couple of years during the pandemic to actually make all those chips that are fundamental to electronics devices, to the vehicle sector. You know, we're hearing stories all the time about delays to products. This isn't helping. You can build as many fabs as you like to produce those chips. If you haven't got the gases coming in, you've got a big problem. So it is a big concern.
Thanks for that, Rob. So that's your picks from the last quarter. Looking at the next quarter coming up, is there anything you're expecting to come up in the second quarter?
Again, it would be crystal ball gazing for me to say that. I mean, this quarter isn't even out, so we've gone early. We've tried to get those picks out. We're still a few days left. I think looking ahead, you expect more of the decarbonisation stories. We'll probably get another update on helium somewhere. There'll be lots of stories coming out of our webinars, no doubt. Hydrogen clearly is going to be a big one. I'm sure there'll be a big story coming up soon. We'll have the financials. So there's going to be lots to look forward to. Unfortunately, I suspect there'll be more fallout from the situation in Ukraine. Whatever happens, you can be assured we'll be keeping our eye on it. Sorry. What I would like to ask, so Tom, you've asked me a lot of questions. How about you? What about your pick from the quarter?
What sort of comes off the back of the Ukraine-Russia situation that you mentioned? For me, I think it's very important that all the majors have clarified their position in terms of Russia and not starting new business or not continuing with operations there. So for Air Liquide, Air Products and Linde to all come out and make that stance, for me, that's very important for this month.
Absolutely, and there were a lot of question marks around those statements, when they would arrive and what they would say, so I think that's a good pick.
Absolutely, we've had to wait on a few of them, but now they've all come in. Definitely good news, I think. And Rob, thanks very much for your time. We'll catch up again next quarter. So to stay up to date with that, visit gasworld.com.